All right, we're gonna start with our next interview with Stephanie Williams with us here at MomoCon, and we're gonna start with our first outlet.
You got it?
Oh, okay. Hi, Mark from Blurredography. My question to you is this: how do you go from a career in science research to writing comics?
Well, not to make this sound easy, but I just kind of did. So when I was working in the lab with experiments, sometimes you got downtime for 2 to 3 hours. So when I started writing freelance for different outlets like Sci-Fi Wire, should I be looking at this one?
No.
Okay. Different outlets like Sci-Fi Wire, IGN, Nerdist, I would write sometimes in between experiments. So that was really helpful. The research aspect came into play because I was able to, I already had that down to a literal science. So when it came to researching comic book characters, that was something that I was already kind of doing in the back of my head. So when I had to apply it to what I was writing, it just came out. So taking those skill sets that I learned and honed while being a research scientist, and then applying it to the nerdy stuff that I loved, it felt like a very easy transition. So that's kind of how that happened. But of course, the road is way more windy, uphill, and not as straightforward as that. But that's kind of how that transition began to happen.
JB of JB versus the World. What is your nerdy origin story? What got you started in the nerd space?
So my nerdy origin story actually takes place in a laundromat. So we would go to a laundromat sometimes, and they had 2 arcade games. So it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, and it was and then it was also Marvel versus Capcom. I used to always pick Storm, and I know the guy who owned that place probably couldn't stand me because all I heard was Typhoon, Typhoon, Typhoon. So that's kind of where it began. Like video games were the place where I started, and then because it was X-Men, I was like, oh wait. So after Power Rangers, they're showing X-Men 92. So I watched that after school, and then it slowly transitioned to comics. My first comic that I actually sat down and read and made me say, oh, I actually like this genre was, I think, either Avengers 361 or 371, but it's the middle of this story arc where Vision is there, but Black Knight, Cersei, and Crystal are like in this throuple, and Vision is looking down as Black Knight and Crystal kissing, and he's like, it's the white Vision, so he's been reset and he's going through all these emotions. I bring it up because it was super dramatic, and it made me think about the soap operas that my grandmother and my mom watched, and I was like, oh, well, I'm familiar with this, but they're just in tights. So that's kind of where my love of comics stemmed from, and it just kind of went off from there. Pokemon was another thing. I quickly learned though that I couldn't share my love of like all this nerdy stuff with everyone. I found like a pack of Pokemon cards in a desk when I was like 6th grade. It was an English class. I was hype about it. There was a Hitmonlee in there, some like a Charizard, a Blastoise. I don't know whose that was, but it was mine that day. And I showed my friend, and my friend was like, girl, what is that? And I was like, oh, well, I will never talk to you about Pokemon again. I did find some other kids in the neighborhood that were into it, but then I kind of learned like, okay, so for certain stuff, some of your friends are not gonna be into it, so you just kind of keep it to yourself or find other people that are into it like you. So it's funny now because that same friend is like, girl, when you sending me Moon Girl Devil Dinosaur for my kids? So here we go. Yes.
Matt Jenkins with Moana Nui Podcast. First and foremost, thank you for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Younger girls in my family, my younger cousins and whatnot that are 12, 13-ish, anytime they start talking about comic books, it's the first thing I go buy for them. And all of them have loved it. With Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, is there a particular message you were trying to convey with that? Or are you just trying to tell a good story?
So I just want to make it clear because I wish I know you're not saying this, but there have been other people that come to my table. I'm like, you created? I'm like, I didn't. I wish I did. When Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur were created, I was actually hype about it and reading it. But for the story that I wrote for the graphic novel, Wreck and Roll, this story I wanted it to be about community, sisterhood, and one, just really having a good time. The animated series is so different from the comics in a way that I really deeply appreciate. So I wanted the story to be one that, sure, you know, the other roller derby team in this book are doing things that they shouldn't be, but there's a purpose for it. I thought of them as the Clovers from Bring It On. Like they, you know, they had a little attitude with them, but they had a goal in mind, and they wanted to make their dreams come true on their own, and I could do nothing but respect that. So I just wanted it to be something where, you know, young women and girls, or whoever read it, they understood the importance of the community, again, sisterhood, Black sisterhood specifically, and just having fun. Like, Lunella, they're at a skate rink. Like, come on. Yes. Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, Tafara TV, Blurred's Eyeview. Hi again.
Hey.
So, can we add Powerlifter to your list of accolades after today?
We sure can. So that's something I don't really talk about, but I power lift. That's just something that after I had my son, I was like, body was different. I was like trying to figure out something that made me comfortable. And man, do I love powerlifting. Deadlifts, power cleans, split squats, front squats, all of it is something that I do. Because it's when people say mean things online, you know, I just say, wow, I'm gonna go to the gym and I wish that this person was this barbell.
Fellow powerlifter here, so I feel you. With Lunella being the smartest girl, the smartest human in the Marvel universe, and the limited visibility that she has as compared to like a Tony Stark, what is your biggest challenge in writing for that character?
I think the biggest challenge was trying to make sure that Lunella was relatable. The problem that I have with the comic version of her is that oftentimes she felt a little alienated, isolated, because she was so smart. It made her socially awkward, which I don't think is a problem, but Lunella could still find friends. The animated series is something that was able to like really just bring that home the first episode, which I love. So for me, she's uber smart, but also at the same time, she can still communicate. She's still 13. She still has to deal with things with like making friends, figuring out morally where she wants to stand, all of these things, because just because she's a super smart Black young girl doesn't mean that she is an adult. And oftentimes that's the way that she was written in the comics. So for me, it was just remembering like my 8-year-old, some of the stuff that he does, he's uber smart, but also sometimes he doesn't do things that I ask him to, like brush his teeth. So just making sure that I kept that in mind when writing her, like she could be all those things, but she's still a kid. Right.
I wasn't sure if you mentioned Pokemon, but Carnell from Carnell Hollow Pictures, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Now, who's your 6 when you fight?
That's a good one. So I always have a Rapidash or a Ponyta that is just up there, and I haven't just evolved them. It's gonna be all the first 150. Charizard is always there, a Blastoise, a Venusaur. Got 2 more. It's usually a ghost type, so either a Ghastly or a Mr. Mime, just because he's just a little cunty, I love him. But I haven't played the newer Pokemon, but trying to remember those names, I'm just like, you look cool, you're very strong, and either I'm running away from you or whatever, but I've been trying to learn the new ones. This is too much. In my old age, I can't do it. Yes.
Okay. In your opinion, do we need more Black women in this industry of creating comics and just entertainment in general? And if so, what advice could you give Black women who are interested in this process?
An emphatic yes. Like I would yell if it wouldn't mess with the feedback in the mic. I could not yes, from writers, artists, colorists, letterers, editors is the huge one, because a lot of times they're the ones putting together the teams, especially at the bigger corporations. Indie comics as well, and there are a lot of Black women who are doing things. I think of Jamila Rawser, I think of, let's see, we got Sherilyn Eden, we have N.K. Jemisin, who did a little something for DC, but then DC didn't want anything else, which is really crazy to me. We just, so many women that are doing things right now, but we can always use more. It's not fun being the only person in the room. I don't enjoy that. It does not bring me joy. It would be nice to be on a panel, just talking about the process, and for there to be 2 or 3 other Black women on the panel instead of most of the time it's me being the only Black woman and everyone else. And any advice? Start. I know that's not sexy, but start, ask questions. If you see other Black women at conventions who have their indie comics, or you see me, come ask me questions. I will answer them.
In the ways that you write Lunella, how do you find yourself in that? Like, where do you go to like bring her experiences to the page?
So that one is nice and easy because I once was a 13-year-old Black girl in a lot of gifted classes. So I just kind of think of those experiences and really not more so what I would do, because I don't want to self-insert for Lunella because we are two different people, but just kind of thinking of those instances and like how would she then in turn, how would she react? Her personality, how would she go about things? But that is the beauty of being able to write a character that looks like you, is that a lot of times those experiences are going to be the same. Yes. And then,
Yeah.
What have been some of the highlights in your career? Like you look back and you feel proud?
I'm gonna have to say it's the first Nubia series. That was my first major comic gig. Before that I had a Marvel Voices 2-page story with Monica Rambeau, and I knew after that that I was gonna have to hit the pavement even harder than I did before, because that wasn't enough and I didn't think that it was gonna guarantee me a career. So when Nubia came and it was a series and I got to do more, I said I was going to learn as much as I could and make sure that if this happened to be the only thing that I wrote, that I left a mark, even if the sales weren't good, which I wasn't expecting to do because it's a Black character, Black woman character at that. But I wanted to be something that if somebody read 10 years from now, that they would tell as many people as they could about it, because it just touched them. And since Nubia's been out for like 2 years now, and now I've started to see that trickle down effect of people just now discovering and just really rocking with what I wrote. So Nubia is definitely that one. It proved to me that I deserve to be here, that I'm going to be here, and all I gotta do is keep doing what I'm doing.
James Herndon, Moana Nui podcast. Was scrolling through IG today and I saw you deadlift 315. So when did powerlifting come about?
Powerlifting came about right after I had my son, so right around 2016. His godparents, they were doing CrossFit, and like they just came over one day and I'm like, oh, look amazing. So weightlifting is something I always enjoyed when I was in high school. I played softball and basketball, so we were always in the weight room. I just kind of lost it. So got into CrossFit, got into the powerlifting, and now I have a personal trainer that I'm working with for the last 6 months now, and we've been making strides. I think my PR now, because he saw that, he was like, yeah, so when you get back, you'll tell me you can't do 350, because you absolutely can.
Let's go.
Last question.
Okay, right there.
Which medium do you prefer to write?
That is a good one. Right now it's comics, because it's always my first love, but I just wrote my first light novel, and that was fun. But Black romance novels were like my bread and butter. That's what I always read. That's actually what inspired me to get back into writing creatively. It was a Black romance novelist who I reached out to, just to ask her, like, hey, I'm a new mom and I have this crazy idea that I want to switch careers, like a major career shift. Your work has inspired me. Do you have any advice? And she was so kind enough to write back to me. And her doing that, I think that weekend went out and my husband got me a new laptop, and it has been off to the races ever since.
Awesome.
Have some pictures with our press outlets right here in the backdrop.
I know we had a big project that you put a lot of effort to, can be spared to understand and fans. If you could say a little bit more about that.
Yes. So, I got the gig last year. Well, this time in May, I think I was probably handing in the list that I had for the campus that I wanted to do. So turn that in, and DC came back with what they wanted. So the list ended up being, I think, like 120 something characters. So imagine summer project, 120 characters, maybe. About half of them I was familiar with, so I didn't have to do a ton of reading, but the other half I was not. So there was a lot of reading going on while I was also working on the second Nubia series. So I was DC down. They sent me a hard drive with like all of the DC comics all the way up until 2012, which was pretty cool. So I'm talking about everything, like comics that are hard to find, I had access to. But this was really fun because my start in talking about comics was actually doing character deep dives. So this was something that I felt like I had been training for my entire life. So it was really fun to, learn more about Black Racer. That is a Jack Kirby character, and Jack Kirby is like very big brain, so I almost broke my brain, trying to like distill his character down to something that made sense to put this book. And also, I was happy that with this project, they allowed me to kind of lean into my humor. I didn't have to keep it too corporate, which was nice. So my hope is that it reads like something that is not like a normal encyclopedia. I've been told that it doesn't, but this was a labor of love and something that I'm so happy I got to, like, I had to cover Jet and a Black woman named Dr. Claire Foster. And I found out that one time Superman thought he was racist and he went to therapy because of it. And Muhammad X, who only appeared in one Superman comic, appeared in Superman 179 to further prove that maybe he is a racist, but he does have some implicit bias.
Okay, so I know you put a lot of love into Living Heroes as well, but I know you said you also have a My Little Pony project coming out.
I do. So I was asked to come back to put something for My Little Pony series, and My Little Pony was something that I was ever into. It was actually my son who started watching Fletcher Big's Magic, and I started watching it too. I was like, oh, this is actually really good, and it's not the weird pony stuff that I remember. And not only weird, but like the art was just already that and Kid Biz. I don't know, it made me feel some kind of way when I was watching when I was younger. But they invited me back to put something for the new generation that they have. So they're on generation 5, I think now. My story stars Misty, and it's kind of Ritters, Harris, all these things that I've never really done before in comics, and it was a lot. Like, that project almost broke me, but the editors were amazing on it, and I'm just really proud of that story. There's 4 issues total. It starts June 12th, and I believe it goes all the way to September.
Okay, then you have a Star Trek project coming out as well, too.
Yeah, I have a couple Star Trek projects. So next week, Star Trek Celebration, May 29th, that would be out. I wrote a Reno, and wow, I am blanking on the character's name. Stammet story. It's just them kind of dealing with some younger scientists that come aboard and things going away, stuff runs them up basically, and they have to solve it. And then through September 4th, I have a dispatch story that I did that stars Michael Burnham, and that would be out again September 4th. That's Star Trek 500. And then I have a couple other Star Trek things that have not been announced, but please be on the lookout. If you don't follow me already on Instagram, Threads, or TikTok, that's at Steph_I_Will. I always post there. I'll have that information as soon as I can release it.
Okay, lastly, at the panel, you talked about how you used to make memes and you were getting like official attention. So what advice would you give for people who maybe want to take a tiny bit of attention and turn it into an opportunity?
So I would say ride that wave as you can, but don't ride it until the wave is no more. always kind of consistently think of new content that you come out with that maybe mirrors what you do, that was success with. That I would say ride the wave as long as you can, but don't wait until it crashes into the shore because then you lost that momentum. So that would be my advice. If something is successful that you do, then think of how you can either replicate and do it again or find other offshoots of it that made you win. But just play around. You never know. Sometimes some of the things that took me 10 seconds to think about went viral, and it's something that took me, a full day to kind of plan out. But so the internet is a beautiful thing. Don't take it too personally.
All right, Steph, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Time again.
That's it.
Lady from Geek by Hearts. Lady Mandalore, also known as Room Full of Words.
Chris Fury.
We'll be watching Mayhem Media.
And you are watching?
Blur's Eyeview!